Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Teo here, bringing you the second installment of Irae, or, however you pronounce it. We have left Berlin behind. We are now in 2006 Japan. Don't know if we're going to go back to Berlin. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. I would guess not. We killed a bunch of people, so there's probably not that many people left alive there. So yeah, we're probably in Japan for the foreseeable future. So, November 29th, 2006. Mount Fuji. Aokigahara, Sea of Trees. 3:27 a.m. Early. The entire area was engulfed by crimson flames. A torrent of sheer energy had emerged from a nearby cave, mowing down trees and setting them ablaze. This place was a crevice in the fabric of space, a meeting point for the ley lines which spread across the earth like a net. A lone man emerged from the cave. He wore a rosary and a cassock, signaling his status as a holy member of the cloth. Indeed, the warm smile playing across his lips was what one would expect from a man of God. Yet could a man appearing in a place like this in the dead of night, emerging alongside an inferno, truly be a servant of the divine? And kneeling before him in servitude was a young woman with jet black hair. Her skin color and features clearly identified her as a native of this land. She spoke reverently, her face as expressionless as that of a statue.
ご無礼をお許しください。生産杯芸家、バレリア・トリファ狩猟代行。あなたをここへお呼びしたのは、この私の意向です。自己紹介は必要ですか?
Interesting. So this new blonde fellow is not the same as the old blonde fellow, but is a substitute? I assume the Lord Commander they're referring to is the original blonde guy? But not necessarily.
いいえ。レオンハルト、あなたのことは覚えていますよ。キルヒアイゼン教の後を継がれた時は、まだほんの子供でしたが、美しく、そして強くなられましたね。
恐縮です。
Unpleasant moaning could be heard echoing throughout the area. They were likely the souls of the men and women that had taken their own lives within this forest. The young woman paid them no heed even as they continued to make their presence known. The priest, in contrast, inhaled them all with affection, making them his own. A blasphemous scene, an affront to all that was just. It was identical to the events of Berlin 61 years prior. Was this perhaps a continuation of what had began that night? A priest with a voice that sang each word, before him, a young woman offering nothing but the humblest of words. They exchanged a few greetings, but nothing of note. Trifles such as how the priest had traveled from the other side of the earth, by traversing its ley lines, and how the girl had altered his original path in order to lead him here. Apologies and explanations for her imprudent action, as well as the reason why the priest could not possibly journey there at the present time. All those were of secondary importance, unnecessary to discuss here. There was but one thing of value.
ではこれより、共に戦の続きを始めましょうか。
Yep, gotta keep lighting people on fire. That is priority number one here. That one crucial point, and that alone. That they were preparing to finally unveil to the world the supreme performance they had spent so many moons preparing. Now then, may the curtains of Grand Guignol? Guinol? Rise. Slaughter, butcher, massacre till no more is left. Violate, conquer, and consecrate. Let there be victory. Let there be conquest. And thus...
神、これを欲したも。忠誠こそ我が名誉。
They would repeat their struggle as many times as necessary. They would continue fighting to the very limits of time itself. They had sworn to do so, and so they were bound to carry out this task. The young woman's recital of the oath of their holy crusade was met by the priest's own blessings. And so, on that night, in that forest, the legion that had vowed to destroy the world began to stir. Unbeknownst to any. I mean, it's beknownst to us. Do we not count? Oh sweet, we get an opening theme. Ah, we've done it. After a solid hour of gameplay, we have finally unlocked the title screen. That was the prologue, I guess, so new game? Seems reasonable. If only time could just stop. It was impossible to truly determine the single greatest moment of your life until you were looking back on things from your deathbed, of course. But I was sure everyone had wished for something similar at least once. It was only human to wish for fun times to continue, to want to relive a moment of glory. It felt only human to wish to hang on to the here and now. Even should its brilliance eventually fade, that still beat losing it. The known was comforting, the unknown terrifying. Everyone must have experienced this sort of anxiety before, especially students like me. It was hardly unusual to experience this sort of feeling. After all, we were at the part of our lives where we had to start thinking about college, getting a job, and just the future in general. We were in the uneasy transition period between childhood and adulthood, so it felt only natural we'd start obsessing with the mundane. One could call it living for the moment, a kind of escapism that arose when you didn't have both feet on the ground. For better or worse, it was the sort of infection that didn't really do anyone any harm. You could just write it off as another facet of youth. But I didn't want to ever get over this particular strain of measles myself. After all, my life up to this point had been more than comfortable. It might have been a boring, commonplace one, but I was fine with it continuing that way forever. If time flew and you were having fun, then the solution was simply not to have fun in the first place. Don't know if I necessarily agree with you on that one, but it was best to steer away from the unknown and stick to the default path. Who knew what sort of trouble you might encounter on the road less traveled by? I was enamored enough of my current environment to actually entertain, more than just entertain in fact, ridiculous notions like that. To turn one's back on the unknown and seek only the known. You could describe it as playing a game while looking at a walkthrough. That was my, Ben Fuji's way of life. Always had been, and hopefully always would be. I figured that I could keep my internal sense of time set on slow if I kept with this line of thinking. Stopping time completely wasn't possible, after all. So you could consider this philosophy of mine to be a kind of compromise, the closest possible realistic approach. I thought that I understood, that nothing lasted forever, that something beyond being finite meant that its end could come at any time.
じゃあお前、例えば自分の人生を小説だと考えてみろ。
Up until the day where you had to go and say that.
漫画でもゲームでも何でもいいが、とにかく一人称語りで進む長編だ。自分をその主人公だと考えろ。
That's, kind of meta. A story that continues from the cradle to the grave. An epic saga that details each and every event and person that comes into your life, from the minute to the monumental. Think of life as something like that, he said.
そこで質問。今自分が綴ってる小説は実際のとこ面白いのか？主人公としてお前はキャラが立ってるのか？
As far back as I could remember, Shido had a habit of suddenly going on and on about shit that didn't make sense like this. Most of the time it was just trying to get a rise out of me.
文法が怪しいとか語彙が貧弱だとかそういうスキルのこと言ってんじゃない。ただドラマとして売りになりそうな花なりトゲなり毒なりを持っているか？さらに同じジャンルを囲った中でも 抜きん出ている何かがあるか。自分がやらなくても他の誰かがやるような人生なら生き続ける意味はない。こんなところやそんなところで誰でもできるようなジャンルやっててもしゃあないだろ。連れとだべってバカやって女作ったり部活やったり悪くはないけど珍しくもない。そんなの日本中の同年代がリアルタイムで経験してる。俺は別に数が多いことをバカにしてるわけじゃないぜ。要はそれだけ選びやすい道だってことを言いたいのさ。
I see. So there's sort of a fundamental ideological conflict here.
選択肢があるように見せかけて、実は人生一本道なのかもしれないってな。
And then this is tying back to the sort of original argument against determinism that all the Nazi fellows were on about. In other words, what if we're not choosing, but instead being made to choose?
少なくともこの国じゃ最大公約数が強いだろ。出る杭は打たれる、天才は孤独、はぶられるバカ、いじめかっこ悪い。なんでもいいがよ。まあそれは現実的な解釈で理屈つけた場合の話で。俺はなんていうかな。デジャブるんだよ。これ、前にもやったんじゃねえのかなって。楽しくないんだ。新鮮味がない。前にも読んだことある気がするんだ。この話。だから、お前に協力してほしいんだよ。
With what?
フラグ立てと、フラグ折りさ。
That sounds like a bad idea. I don't even know what you're talking about, and it sounds like a real bad idea. And what was that supposed to...
言ってもわかんねえかもしれねえな。だってお前、好きだろそれ。何もかもが基地の範疇。1から10まで同じことを生まれて死ぬまで繰り返したい。そんな変人、他に知らんし。そもそも、俺の話に出てくるお前は、なんかずれてるトリックスターみたいなもんなんだよ。
I could have said the same about him myself. Shido was a sort of guy who was impossible to read, impossible to get a handle on. He certainly wasn't the type of character who should have been appearing in my story. So why did it sometimes feel like he was a central figure in it? If we were going with the whole novel analogy, Shido was a misprint.
そんなお前をここでどかせば、話が変わってくるかもしれない。
Define get rid of.
な顔すんなよ。お前だってわかるだろ？俺らはお互いガキの頃にいろんなもんから弾かれてる。本来なら気楽に学園ドラマやってられるような身分じゃないんだ。そしてだからこそ今までそれをやってきた。なのにデジャブが止まらない。挫折もんだよ。泣きたくなる。だから根性なくて悪いけどよ。俺は抜けるぜ。もう付き合わない。人生は短い。エンディングが来る前に選択肢の総当たりをやらせてくれ。この一本道、絶対どこかに別ルートがあるはずだ。俺はそれを探したい。結果がたとえバッドエンド一直線でも。
If it's something new, then it's worth checking out either way.
だったらここでお前と切れるってのもなかなか面白いと思うだろ。
I'd gotten sick of that grin on his face long ago. It was the sort of expression that seemed to say he had nary a care in the world. Fitting, really. That was how I knew that nothing I said would get through to him. Not like I knew what he was going on about in the first place, really. But one thing was for certain. Shido's genre or whatever was about to diverge completely from my own.
死んだら化けて出てくれよ。俺まだ幽霊見たことねえし。
So I was prepared for what came next. Fistfights normally can't go too far. After all, you'd be using your actual hands and feet as weapons. If it got fucked up, you were done. It only made sense to call it a draw when you ran out of ammo, so to speak. But Shido and I were a little too stupid to let something like that stop us. You couldn't even really call it a fight. We were both just trying to obliterate each other, plain and simple. There was enough blood pouring down my face to make it seem like I was viewing the world through a red veil. We smacked each other around so much that our hands themselves broke. We even had bones poking out of our skin. But we just kept at it. My eardrums had shattered long ago. I was lost in a world of noise and violence. My shoulder had dislocated itself. My chin was split in two. My rims were bent and broken, piercing various internal organs for good measure. Here I was, hacking up blood like it was going out of style, but Shido seemed to be having the time of his life. I couldn't focus on anything but the way he exploded with laughter. Why did it end up like this? Why did he need to take it this far?
だから言ってもわかんねえって。ただこの町に住んでいたら。
I couldn't remember what he said after that, no matter how hard I tried. All I knew is that we continued brutalizing each other until our bodies ceased to function. I wonder if that's going to be relevant at some point. It wasn't a matter of one of us deciding to surrender or passing out or whatever. We just quite literally ran out of batteries. We'd both taken too much abuse to keep our bodies going with sheer willpower alone. It was no laughing matter. Our battered bodies were just lying there on the rooftop, drowning in a pool of our own blood. We probably would have died if no one had found us. But what did Shido say?
楽しいな。
Seriously, how the fuck could he act like that was just some sort of game? Listen to me, dumbass.
こっちに来たけりゃいつでも言えよ。
Don't act like you've triumphed over me, like you've gone on to the next level or whatever. Me come at you? Give me a fucking break. You're the one who needs to crawl out of the gutter and come at me, shithead. Left cheekbones, upper jawbone, lower jawbone, right eye fundus, nasal bones, all varying degrees of fractured. Left collarbone, completely fractured. Upper left carpus and middle left hand bones, completely fractured. Right shoulder, dislocated. Right ulna, metacarpus, and carpal bones, completely fractured. Ribs 3 and 4 of the right rib cage, completely fractured. Ribs 5 and 6 of the right rib cage, compound fractures. Ribs 4 to 6 of the left rib cage, completely fractured. Ribs 7 and 8 of the left rib cage, compound fractures. Right femur, partially fractured. Right tibia, left fibula, both metatarsals, completely fractured. Not to mention all the various sprains, bruises, cuts, and lacerations. In total, I damaged 48 distinct locations. That's kind of impressive, honestly. If you listed it out like that, it sounded like I got into a fight with a dump truck or something. I was surprised I even made it to the hospital in one piece. To be honest, though, I would have been okay with dying. It wasn't that I had no regrets. I just kind of reached this zen state. Like, if I was gonna die, so be it. Maybe it would be better to say that I just stopped caring. That fight had been enough excitement for one lifetime. I lost the will to do anything, barely paying attention to the world around me. I stopped giving a shit about myself either way. Despite my rather unhealthy mental state, my body recovered quickly enough to shock even the doctors attending me. More than a little ironic. Honestly, there was a part of me that wanted to laze around in that hospital a little longer. But I suppose there simply weren't enough beds to keep someone fully recovered lying around forever. The hospital staff told me that I needed to get out of there if I was well enough to be walking around. I really had no choice in the matter. I wasn't a fan of the idea of someone who actually needed care being turned away because of my selfishness. It was for the best that I complied with the staff's request. Regardless of my feelings, the world would keep on turning. They said that time stopped for no man, after all. No turning back. What was done, was done. Right now, the important thing was thinking about what would come next. It didn't matter whether or not I was capable of doing it. I had to face the fact that it was necessary, period. That was the only way I would ever be able to move forward. So I decided to walk out of there with a smile on my face, one way or another. I headed back to my room to pick up my things after taking care of the checkout procedure. Of course, the only real personal effects I had brought with me were some change of clothes and an MD player. I spent 2 months in the hospital room, but I figured cleaning it up would probably only take around 5 minutes. It ended up taking 10, but hey, same difference. The extra 5 were a result of having to clean up all the junk that Kasumi brought in while visiting. There were various comics, novels, and even adult magazines. I seriously don't know what she was thinking with these, scattered all over the place. More than a dozen in count. Rather than dealing with them myself, I decided to just send them all back to her place.
じゃあ皆さん、お大事に。いや、あいつは今頃学校ですよ。来るとうるさくなるんで、一足先に。って、そうですか？変な趣味してますね。
The other patients in the same room made sure to get in a last few lighthearted jabs. I was never good at dealing with situations like this. I doubt anyone would call me the sociable type. But thanks to Kasumi, the other patients would often strike up conversations with me. It'd be awkward to just ignore them completely, after all. My responses were always half-assed, but they didn't seem to mind. Hospitals generally had a gloomy atmosphere about them, so it's only natural that somebody cheery like Kasumi would draw attention.
ならあいつの進路に看護師って選択も入れるように言っときますよ。
I took my bag and turned to leave. But at that moment...
白ですか？
Shido, being just as messed up as I was, had also been taken to this hospital. The bastard disappeared 3 days after his surgery and hadn't been seen since.
知らないですね。あいつがどこで何してようと、俺には関係ありませんよ。
Yeah, exactly. What Shido was up to was none of my business. I need to stop worrying about his bullshit.
じゃあ、
I stepped out of the hospital room, putting it all behind me once and for all. It had been months since I had last been outside of the hospital. The vast blue sky spread out invitingly above me. In the 2 months I had been hospitalized, autumn had turned to winter. I suddenly became curious as to whether they were already putting up Christmas decorations downtown.
まあ遠回りなわけでもないし。
I decided it might be fun to experience my own version of the whole Rip Van Winkle experience. I needed a change of pace from the dull scenery I had been stuck staring at from the hospital window anyway. Maybe this would help me get back into the swing of things.
って思ってたんだけどな。
Unfortunately, even downtown there was but the barest trace of the Christmas spirit I had been expecting. It made me realize again just how laid back Suahara City really was. Suahara was built back in the time of World War II. Despite being in an isolated location, it was nevertheless fairly prosperous thanks to the effects on the part of the big shots in charge of the place. What Suahara lacked in history and tradition, it made up for in tourist attractions. There were any number of facilities to draw in crowds with, such as an amusement park that was famous nationwide. You'd call it a small-town success story. Of course, I only moved there 2 years ago myself, so I wasn't really one to talk. I was definitely a fan of the landscape and general atmosphere of the city, though. It seemed like a hectic place at first glance, but things moved slower in Suahara than one might think. Once you got used to it, it was as relaxing as a baby's cradle. Of course, most people would tell you the exact opposite, that Suahara was a lively place with a bustling atmosphere, but I did know a few other people who agreed with my assessment, such as Himuro and Shiro. It wasn't like you could really say that either line of thinking was right or wrong, though, and I didn't feel like trying to argue with people who disagreed. Live and let live, I guess. Anyway, my first foray into the city in 2 months didn't end up changing my impression of it much.
帰るか。
In the end, I just came to the boring conclusion that it was the same city as ever. Right as I was about to head back, a piercing wail akin to the shrieking of a banshee rang out from behind me. So much for enjoying a quiet afternoon.
ちょっと聞こえてるんでしょ。おいこら無視するな。レンでしょ。こっち向きなさい。そこ藤井レン。
It was at times like this that I questioned why I was even friends with this girl. In the first place, who would consider it a good idea to start yelling someone's name in the middle of the street like that?
お前ちょっと声でかすぎ。
隊員おめでとう。ねえどう？元気かな？もう痛いとこない？って何よその顔。どうかした？
I wanted nothing more than to tell her that yes, I was in a great deal of pain just now, as she just walloped me something good on the shoulder, but I settled for just giving her a dirty look. This was Kasumi Ayase, my childhood friend of the same age. She was the head of the kendo club at our school. As you can probably tell by this incident, she was, rambunctious enough to have competed at the national level several times. And here she was, giving me the same wide smile as usual. I suppose this sort of upbeat attitude was one of her strengths.
お前なんでここにいるわけ？
何よいちゃ悪いの？
悪いっていうか不自然だろ。
It was the middle of the day. Why wasn't she at school?
サボったのか？
まあね。
なんで？
なんででしょう。
Hell if I knew. I threw up my hands.
私ね一刻も早くレンちゃんに会いたかったの。会いたかったの。会いたかったの。
ああそうなの。
I was glad to see that her stupidity was in full form again today.
留年希望かお前。
大丈夫よ。あんたよりは私日数足りてるし。
Yeah, but like being in the hospital for 2 months is like a legitimate excuse, right? Like, you might still get held back a year, but at least you have a good reason. She said as she violently slapped me on the back. It hurt like a bitch.
とまあそれはそれとしてあんた何一人で勝手に帰ってんのよ。迎えに行くって私言ったの覚えてないわけ？
いやそりゃ覚えてたけど。
I wasn't exactly expecting her to skip school just to come pick me up, and it would have been a pain in the ass to wait around that long. I tried to explain my line of thinking, but Kasumi wasn't having any of it.
じゃああんた後で電話とかする気だったの？
What if we said yes and left it at that? Definitely not.
っていうかお前の番号って何番だっけ？
That also works, I suppose, as a response.
こ これだからまったくこの野郎はよ。何ですか？君は携帯使えないんすか？いつの時代の人ですか？着信履歴の見方すらわからんお人なのですか？
失礼だな。それくらいわかるぞ。
Then why are you asking her number if you have it in your call history? And by your own admission, you know how to check your call history.
じゃあ貸せこのクソ。
Kasumi snatched away my cell phone and began to tap away at lightning speed.
はい、電話帳のタップに入れといたからね。消したら怒るぞ。つうか閉めるぞ。
笑顔で言うなよ。ところでこれなんだ？愛のヴィーナスって。
あたし。
とりあえず狂気のベルセルクに変えとくけどな。
変えんなっていうかそれ頭痛が痛いと同じレベルの重複表現。
それくらい強調したいんだよ。そもそもヴィーナス名乗るなら少しは女の子らしい言葉を使ってくれ。
誰が怒らせてると思ってんのよこのバチ当たり。本来ならこう私の手とかがっしり握って「ありがとうかすみ、君は僕の天使だよ」とかそういう感謝の一つや二つってほらこっち見る。
What a lovely relationship these two have. It's entirely healthy.
あんたいきなり大怪我して入院して私心配して毎日お見舞い行ったのに当の本人は上の空で挙句勝手に退院してこんなところをプラプラしてるさ。何様ですか？マジですか？やる気あんのか？つうかやんのかこら。
やる気も何も。
Katsumi seriously needed to cool it before she popped a vein. She was the one acting unreasonable here. Maybe she would calm down a bit if I really did the whole my angel thing, but I really did not feel like going through with that.
そもそもあんたは。
However, I did have just a thing to shut her up.
とりあえずお前が病室に持ち込んだ諸々は家の方に送っといたぞ。
はい。
捨てるわけにもいかないだろう。だから家に送ったんだよ。気が利くだろ。
ちょい待ち。それ全部？
I mean, if you didn't want the porn back, you shouldn't have sent the porn in the first place. Seems perfectly reasonable to me.
そう全部。
Comics, the books, and of course the magazines full of naked ladies.
その待って家ってどっちの方や？
実家。
There's no way this ends poorly.
冗談だよね。
冗談は苦手だな。
マジで？
マジだ。
It would be a sad day indeed for Miss Ayase once she received that package and learned what exactly her daughter had been buying.
あんた最悪。買うの恥ずかしかったのに。
This of course raises the important question, why the hell were you buying it in the first place?
じゃあ買うなよ。
See, Ren understands me.
でもさ、
Just get a room, you two.
役に立った？
Oh my fucking god. Now that she mentioned it, the other patients in the room with me had been big fans of those magazines. They didn't pester me while they were occupied with them, so I guess you could say I got used to them after all.
そこそこ。
嘘、本当に？あんたそんなやつだったの？
I'm not sure what I'm supposed to say here.
どんなやつだよ。
ねえちょっと具体的にどの号の何ページが役に立ったの？試しに言ってみなさいよ。
Wait. I mean, fortunately I have this walkthrough, which tells me the correct choices to get the good ends. Because otherwise I would be deeply tempted to, like, pick all of them. Like, how can I say no to the jailbait stuff, right? Unfortunately I have to pick the bottom one. But...
またこいつめ照れちゃって。私は別にいいけどね。レンがどんな趣味してたって。とにかく怪我が治ってよかったじゃない。特にこことか。
She said, poking my cheeks with her thumb.
昨日まで大きい絆創膏してたから傷が残ってるのかと思ったよ。
ああ、これね。
Shido had been wearing armor rings during our fight, so my cheeks were cut up to hell and back when I first entered the hospital. I didn't really care if it left scars or not myself, but Kasumi got so worked up over it that while I was recovering that I kept my face covered with bandages just so she would shut up about it. Case in point.
せっかく綺麗な顔してるんだから 傷が残ったらもったいないよね。
Get a room, you two. There were a few things I disliked more than being told that my face looked pretty. Back when I was a kid, I used to get mistaken for a girl all the time. Unpleasant memories, to say the least. And even as a teenager, it still happened from time to time, despite the fact that I was hardly short or anything. Scouts trying to recruit female models had called out to me on the street on more than one occasion. Definitely the kind of thing that dealt a blow to your pride as a man. I decided to let Kasumi have a piece of my mind.
わざわざ学校サボってそれだけ言いに来たのかお前は。
退院おめでとうって。
ああ、他に用がないなら帰るぞ俺は。
なにその言い方、可愛くないな。遊びたいなら遊びたいって言えばいいのに。
は？なんだそれ。
だからこのままデートとかしたくない？
全然。
あ、いや、まあいいわよ。私もそんなつもりなかったし、上等だもん。帰ったらもう痛くも痒くもないんだもん。
I wasn't sure I understood what was going on inside Kasumi's head at that moment, but that was probably for the best.
でもね、後でレアさんに何か言われたら全部あんたのせいにするからね。
何？
Why bring up Himuro here?
先輩がなんだって？
だから命令されたの。藤井君とデートしてきなさいって。
What a strange order. I can safely say that never in my life I've been ordered to go on a date with somebody. I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. The hell? What on earth was she thinking?
それでお前はうなずいたわけ？
そりゃあだって断ったら怖いじゃない。
I wouldn't describe Himuro as scary. I mean, she was the type that was a little hard to get a handle on, but still.
デートね。
レイは嫌なの？
嫌ってわけじゃないけどな。
Just that I didn't know where to even go. Like, just going to the amusement park with Kasumi didn't feel like anything special.
俺、大して金持ってないけど。
私もないわよ。
I was about to tell her that we should just forget about it, but Kasumi suddenly started fishing around in her bag.
でも大丈夫。先輩、その辺は卒のない人だから。
Who is this Himuro chick? And how do I get her to fund my, like, dates? Like, what is her angle here? Right? Like, if she was one of the two parties in the date, being willing to finance it would make sense. But, like, what's her line here? What's her end game? She finally pulled something out.
チケット2枚。準備万端でしょ？
Oh, okay, so it's not money, so she's just a shipper. Alright, I can get behind this. I like this Himuro chick. Can we meet her? I'm bored of this Kasumi chick. Get her out of my face. Out with this one, I want a new one. Himuro had provided us a ticket to the local museum. Not exactly what you'd expect a teenager to pick. So did this mean that the whole date thing was already set in stone?
ほら、そいじゃ行くよ。
It would seem the answer was yes.
けどお前、芸術に興味なんかあったっけ？
The museum was located away from the main streets. While we were on our way there, I asked Kasumi something that had been on my mind. It wasn't a huge museum or anything, but it was a fancy sort of place that frequently held exhibitions for paintings, ceramics, and the like. It didn't seem very Kasumi to me.
似合わないって？
どうだか。ただ先輩ならハマるかもな。
なんかそれ、私が非生産的なやつみたいで嫌なんですけど。
I don't know if I go with unproductive so much as uncultured.
お前何か生産できたか？
料理作れるよ。
Was that really so special? Not that I was one to talk, cooking and me went together about as well as oil and water.
とりあえずお前の料理は置いといて、結局何がコンセプトの展示なんだよ。
見てわからない？
Kasumi flashed the tickets at me, a wicked gleam in her eye. Frankly, the text on the ticket was printed so large that it would have been impossible not to notice, but
一応確認だけな。
I was still holding out hope that I was just seeing things, because if I wasn't, then it meant we were straight on our way to a gala featuring an assortment of objects I was not interested in seeing. Unfortunately...
世界の刀剣博物館。
Wait, what's wrong with swords? Swords are sweet! My hopes were thoroughly crushed. This was no way to treat someone who had just got out of the hospital. Okay, fair. Might have, lingering trauma associated with pointy things. but, like, swords are sweet. Eventually, we reached the museum, though Kasumi basically had to fight me tooth and nail the rest of the way there. I'd spare you the details of her dragging me around the place after we got there. I'd prefer not to remember. And so...
ねえちょっといつまでそんな顔してるのよ。
Also, wait. I feel super bad for this guy if he, like, doesn't like swords. Because based on all the, like, cover art and the opening sequence just now, like, assuming this character is who I assume they are, they will very shortly be growing a sword out of their arm. So if he's not a fan of swords, he's about to be in for a really bad time. Kasumi muttered in exasperation while I looked at a Nepalese knife known as a kukri. I couldn't help having a sour look on my face. The mere sight of those kinds of blade had made me nauseous for as long as I could remember. Oh yeah. I'm 100% looking forward to the moment that he realizes that his arm is a sword. Why did she take me here in the first place? She knew full well I wasn't good with sharp objects.
情けないな。別に噛みついてきたりしないのに。なんでそんなに嫌がるわけ？
But they totally bite. That's like the whole point. Like, the explicit purpose of these objects is to pierce skin.
なんでつわれても。
Her tone was genuinely curious. Unfortunately, this wasn't something I had a clear answer for.
お前毛虫嫌いなのに理由があるか？
え、毛虫かわいいじゃん。なんかけなげで。
The caterpillars are kind of cute.
じゃあゴキブリは？
見つけたら叩いて潰すね。
ならヘビとかは？
Snakes are also cute.
巻きつけると気持ちよくない？ひんやりしててさ。
Wonderful. I suppose I was wrong to expect a girlish response out of Kasumi in the first place.
なんか言った？
気にするな。
Whatever the case, these things just didn't sit well with me. Little Miss Kendo over there might have found the blades on display fascinating, but I was definitely not having a good time.
もう一通り回ったし、そろそろいいだろ。
つまんないよ。デートでしょ？
お前俺とデートしても楽しくないだろう。
それはあんたの態度次第ね。
She was telling me this?
俺の態度は昔からこんなだろ。病み上がりなんだし、高いハードル持ってくるな。
ほんとしょうがないな。
Kasumi heaved a deep sigh. I was beginning to think that she actually understood, but
じゃあ最後にもう一回りして帰ろうか。
no, of course she didn't. And so we ended up taking one more lap around the museum. I did my best to avoid looking directly at any of the blades on display. I wasn't sure I could really explain exactly why I had this thing against blades, but it wasn't because I felt scared of them. Maybe they just weren't compatible with me. I didn't want to have anything to do with them, period. It just felt like mixing Fuji and bladed weapons was a bad idea, like putting ketchup on a donut. Yeah, that does sound like a bad idea. Keeping my distance was a smart move if I wanted to maintain the peace and harmony in my life. In a way, they almost reminded me of Shiro. I shook my head. Reminiscing about that guy was the opposite of a productive activity. I was on a date, after all. Worrying about Kasumi would be a better usage of my time. Not that I had much confidence in managing that either, but it would be the polite thing to do.
何？どうかした？
いや。
I could have sworn I heard something. Was it just my imagine? So I really was hearing a voice coming from somewhere.
レン？
I straightened my ears. The museum was quiet enough that it should have been easy to make out the voice I'd heard, assuming it wasn't my imagination. It was coming from this direction.
ちょっと待ってよ。どこ行くの？
Well, you see, I'm hearing voices in my head, and I felt that the prudent decision would be to, follow the voices. I ignored Kasumi and ran off. I wasn't quite sure myself why I felt so compelled like this. There was no clear reason to concern myself over some voice in the distance. Either way, I found myself drawn to the spot the voice was coming from. Perhaps it would have been more accurate to say I was guided there, even. I found myself in an obscure corner of the museum, the sort of place you'd never come across if you were just taking the normal route through. Normally, you wouldn't even think that there would be an exhibit piece somewhere out of the way like this. And there it was. Hey, it's a guillotine! I was sure everyone had heard of a guillotine, the execution device used for beheadings. This exhibit wasn't an entire guillotine, though. Just the blade used for the beheading itself. The blade before me distinguished itself from the rest of the exhibits by demonstrating a cold simplicity. There was nothing glamorous or decorative about it. It It was a lump of steel designed for the sole purpose of beheading with ruthless efficiency. You'd likely not find a more suitable tool for its task. Why was something like this even on display? It was a blade, yes, but it differed from anything else I had seen today on a fundamental level. It might have held historic value, but it wasn't a weapon or implement of some ritual. More than anything, though, I wanted to know why I had found myself drawn to it.
何これ私全然気づかなかったよ
Kasumi had finally caught up with me. She took a glance at the guillotine from over my shoulder.
レンよくこんなの見つけたね何ボイス
ボワード・ジュスティス、正義の柱。ギロチンの正式名だよ。あとフランス語な。それからマクシミリアン・ロベスピエール、知ってるだろ。18世紀の政治家だけど。
恐怖政治の
そう、そいつに使ったものだって書いてる。
Robespierre was a key figure during the French Revolution, the man responsible for sending those opposed to the Reign of Terror to the guillotine. Ironically, his end would come by the same device he had employed upon so many of his political opponents in the bourgeoisie. This was supposed to be from back then.
なんかうさんくさいな。信憑性はなさそうだ。
でもそんな風に書かれてるとなんか嫌な感じだね。
同感だ。
Authenticity aside, the idea of putting something like this on display was simply in bad taste to begin with. How to put it, the whole thing felt too raw. The object on display here was a tool of execution, nothing more and nothing less. So perhaps it was only natural that
これどれくらい殺したのかな
one would find themselves asking that question, precisely because the lack of ornament present in the other exhibits made its nature as an implement of death apparent.
あまり不謹慎なこと考えるなよ。これは興味津々に拝むようなものじゃない。
そうだけどそもそも見つけたのはそっちじゃない。
誰だって嫌なものには敏感なんだよ。
Rivers of blood, screams echoing into the distance. All sorts of visions of death ran through my head when looking at this thing. It wasn't often you found something that was so clearly embodied the negative side, the original intent, of a blade. Given that Robespierre's name was attached to it, it had to have been from the 18th century. If it really had been used during the French Revolution, it was safe to say that it had executed hundreds of people. Some would actually describe the guillotine as a merciful form of execution. It was designed to sever heads at exactly the right angle and velocity to ensure that criminals met with a swift, painless death. An instant death delivered at lightning speed. There was a reason some called it merciful. It's easy to get the wrong impression from the rivers of blood and mutilated corpses the guillotine produced, but for someone facing execution it was probably far preferable to being hanged. Well, assuming that the victim died before they had the chance to feel the pain of being decapitated, that is. I found myself thinking about exactly the sort of thing I just told Kasumi not to.
行こう。正直気分が悪くなってきた。
そうだね。ごめん、顔色悪いけど大丈夫？
平気だよ。別に体調が悪いわけじゃ。
Before I could get the word ill out, the same as what? Because whatever we're the same as strongly affects my concern level at the moment. I heard the voice from earlier again, more clearly than ever. Define him. Why did I react the way I did? If only I hadn't paid attention. If only I had ignored it. If only I hadn't looked at it. If only I hadn't spun around to face the dreaded blade. I would have never had to hear the cursed words borne forth from the ethereal figure standing in front of the guillotine. How could she have known that? What did she mean we were the same? The girl standing before me had skin of the purest white, yet that beauty was irrevocably tarnished by a violent streak of crimson across her neck. I almost wanted to believe it was some sort of necklace, but no. The jagged pattern was unmistakably the scar that a decapitation would create. Looking back on things later, I would be able to say that this was where it had all begun. Does my present live up to your expectations? Zarathustra? So wait, is the chick Zarathustra? Are we Zarathustra? Is the guillotine Zarathustra? I'm very confused right now. And thus we met, brought together by him. It was dark out by the time I got home. I'd almost passed out at the museum earlier. I managed to make it back okay, but I still wasn't feeling too hot. At least it was consolation that Kasumi wasn't the type of person to get upset about having to deal with stuff like this. However, on the other hand...
ねえ、レン、本当にもう平気なの?
That also meant that she was the type to fret endlessly. My current goal was to figure out some way to make her leave me alone. If I didn't, she was liable to try and spend the entire night here watching over me or something.
辛いなら横になったら私お粥とか作ろうか?
いいよ別に大丈夫もう寝るからお前も帰れ
I knew that she was just trying to help, but I still couldn't really think straight after what had happened earlier. I probably came across as harsher than I intended.
別に俺虚弱体質ってわけじゃないし怪我はとっくに治ってるから病人扱いするなってあんまり心配されてると本当に気分がめいってくる
でも今日誘ったのは私だしなんか責任感じちゃうしレンちょっと頼りないし
Did we be offended? I'm a little bit offended.
お前さりげなく失礼だな
She did have a point, to be fair. I wasn't the type of person people look to for help.
頼りがいのあるお前が俺に付き合って倒れたら困るだろだから
私そんなにやわじゃないよ
俺もそんなにやわじゃないよだいたい俺を気遣ってるなら不毛なやりとりに付き合わせるなよただでさえ明日から学校行くのが億劫なのに
あ、そうだったダメだよレンサボっちゃ
Something about the pot calling the kettle black.
今日サボったやつに言われてもな
See, I love this. Ben and I are like totally on the same page here. I think I'm gonna like this guy.
私はいいのちゃんと毎日通ってたから1日くらい平気だよ
That's... that doesn't work. Like, you can't go every day and then not go some days. That's mutually exclusive.
でもレンは入院して多分日数足りてないんだからね留年しちゃうよ怠けてると一緒に卒業したいもんね、ね
そうだな
よしだったら早く寝る
だからさっきからそう言ってるだろそれをお前がごちゃごちゃと
うるさいなこの不健康児は口答えするんじゃないの
Kasumi threw some sheets on top of me. Surely there were less direct methods of getting someone into bed.
じゃあおやすみ明日起こしに来るからね
それはいいけどおいかすみちゃんと玄関から出ていけよ
What's the alternative? I'm a little bit concerned about the alternatives here.
おーい
Did she think she could get away with anything just by laughing it off?
それはちょっとめんどいなとか
Yeah, and the window's right there.
普通はその面倒なことが常識なんだよ大体
I gestured to the wall next to me inside.
いい加減大家に怒られるぞいくら隣同士だからって
Oh, I see. She's like going from one balcony to the next. That actually makes some degree of sense. I mean, it doesn't make that much sense, but it's like more than 0 sense. She would be in deep shit if the landlord found out that she had knocked out a goddamn hole in the wall and turned it into some sort of corridor. Like, this was the sort of thing people got kicked out for. Oh, it's not even the balcony, she just made a hole in the wall. Okay, she's a dumbass. Like, I was on board with the balcony plan. Like, slightly dangerous, but, you know, efficient. This is just stupid. Like, with the balcony thing, The only person you're putting in harm's way is yourself. Whereas with this, you're damaging the property value. And, that don't fly. Kasumi and I had moved into this apartment together when we enrolled in our current school. It took her less than a week to come up with the idea to construct this little side entrance.
でも同じアパートの隣に住んで助け合うってのが一人暮らしの条件だったし、いいじゃない。この方が密にフォローできるんだから。
So wait, Kasumi's mom is like also a shipper? Is just everyone trying to get these two together? I mean, okay, I guess.
けどな、親もまさかここまでやってるとは思ってないだろ、絶対に。
そうかな。
Although if you think about it, if the corridor is already there, like, there's no harm in using it, right? I mean, structural integrity of the wall aside.
そうだよ。
頭固いな。だいたい事の発端はシロなんだし、私に言われても困っちゃうよ。
Believe it or not, she wasn't lying. Kasumi, Shiro, and myself had all lived together in this apartment complex, all 3 rooms next to each other in a row. It happened late one night. Out of nowhere, Shiro broke down the wall separating our rooms and barreled in here with a hammer still in his hand, saying he suddenly got the urge to play me in a fighting game. How stupid could he get?
で、何を土地狂ったか、お前も真似したんだよな、ご丁寧に。
Man, this Shiro chap seems like a real character. Like, generally, this is not universal, but in general, I try to pick my friends based on their lack of likelihood of breaking my walls and my face. So, I'm not saying I wouldn't be friends with Shiro, I'm just saying he's like low on the list of potential candidates. Given that I'm attached to my walls and my face, literally in the case of my face.
私はハンマーなんて野蛮なことはしてないけどね。
Don't know if that makes it better. I mean, it does, but I don't know if that makes it better. She was barbaric enough to go down to the hardware store the next day and buy a power saw, some tarp, and a mask at least. Anyway, as I had the bad fortune to live between these two idiots, I ended up with holes in both sides of my room. Privacy? What's that? Kasumi and Shiro would often just cut through here to visit each other, and my room became a sort of natural gathering place in general.
せめて四郎の穴だけでも塞がせろよ。
ダメよ。戻ってきたらどうするの？
Then we really don't want him having easy access to our bedroom, given his propensity for beating the shit out of us. There was no what if. Shiro was never coming back, whether Kasumi knew it or not.
きっとまたみんな元通りになるんだから。私とレンとシロとでね。
I would not put money on that lady.
レン？
だな。
じゃあおやすみ。
Kasumi smiled sweetly and returned to her room, through the hole in the wall. I could tell by the complete lack of dust in my room that she had bothered to clean it while I was stuck in the hospital. Probably Shiro's too. I would never admit it out loud, but I did appreciate the consideration. At the same time, though, I couldn't help but wonder if I really deserved having her look after me like this. Kasumi knew nothing. By all rights, right now we should have been... This line of thought would get me nowhere. I decided right then and there to stop mulling over the past. What was done was done. It wasn't healthy to keep obsessing like this. There was no way the girl I saw at the museum could have actually been real. She was just a hallucination, meaningless clutter that was born from my unstable mental state.
そうさ。
That was the only explanation. Or magical bullshit. I lay down in bed. A good night's sleep would be sure to wash away the memory of today. I wouldn't remember a thing when I woke up the next morning, I was sure of it. I stared up at my own ceiling for the first time in 2 months. Amid familiar surroundings, I drifted off into sleep gripped by a slight unease, rather than a sense of comfort. Now then, let the curtains rise in tonight's grand guinal. It is a pleasure to make your acquaintance, my dear Zarathustra. I am but a humble jester, come to present you with an opera. Consider me not more than a swindler, a charlatan. My name? I suppose Cagliostro shall suffice. Do allow me to regale you tonight with a tale of a girl I met while men still called me by that name. The tale of the fair princess of the Guillotine. The tale of her origins, as well as how the two of us came to meet. I beg of you to forgive my brevity. It all came about as a result of simple bad luck, nothing more and nothing less. Humans are bound by their birth. The average man cannot hope to compete with an absolute brought about by sheer chance at birth, regardless of his foibles or virtues. My story deals with just such circumstances. Unfortunately, there are many who fail to grasp the subtleties of these matters. Allow me to apologize for beginning by airing some tiresome grievances of mine. The less reasonable among us have the tendency to seek an explanation for anyone whom they perceive as breaking the mold, be they a mighty hero, a blithering madman, or a miserable victim. Did they reach their status through tireless effort? Perhaps because they possessed a rare resolve? Or could it be because of some traumatic event in their past? Preposterous assumptions, a lot of them. It's all nothing more than self-projection on the part of the common man, an expression of the fanciful idea that they too could have turned out that way. But they too are capable of reaching the same level should they be granted the same opportunity. Such sentiments are little more than masturbation, pitiful attempts to drag the supernatural down to their level and reduce it to something they are capable of understanding. Miserable knaves, the lot of them. They are incapable of cherishing their fellow man without forcing themselves to believe that all others operate on the same logic as them. Such fools would be better off conversing with a mirror. You will no doubt find tonight's story unpleasant, but I trust that your soul is not tainted enough to imitate the folly of lesser men. In this world, there exist beings of utmost purity. Yes, I speak of her. Search the entire universe and you shall find no peers. From the moment of her birth, she was complete. She did not, and would never, receive even the barest mite of influence from the vulgar outside world. The scar on her neck ever flagrant. Her words pregnant only with hex. Fated to remain forlorn, doomed to never be loved. Even an existence such as mine could not compete with a being as miraculously immaculate as her. For the first time, I laid eyes upon true beauty. I clutched a hand to my chest, overcome by the nature of her being. Ah, how wonderful was man, to bring forth something so spectacular by mere chance. I knew immediately, on some primal level, that hers was not a state of being that others could hope to aspire to. One could devote his life to unraveling the mysteries of dusty grimoires and never so much as set foot upon the mystic plane that was her dominion. She was absolute in her otherness. I must confess, I found myself envious of her. I'm sure you scoff at the very notion, of course. I can say that meeting her was the one true moment of brilliance to be found amongst the miserable ordeal of my life. In a way, it represented a loss on my part, yet defeat has never tasted sweeter. I finally discovered a goal to strive towards amidst the endless expanse of the wasteland that I had wandered aimlessly for so long. I shall kneel before you, my beloved queen. I shall devote my very being to you, to the task of leading your soul to salvation. That shall be my opera, the day of wrath that shall rend asunder the accursed ghetto that is this universe. Come now. It is time to take center stage, Zarathustra. Take her hand and lead her in dance. I would like nothing more than for you to dazzle me. Suddenly, I heard the sound of waves crashing against the shore. I found myself standing on a mysterious beach bathed in the crimson hue of dusk. This was a place far removed from the hectic fervor of the city. I would hear nothing but the quiet murmur of the waves and the sporadic chirping of birds somewhere in the distance. The scene around me possessed a fleeting beauty, one brought about by the setting sun as it melted into the contours of the distant sea. This was the sort of sight that would normally vanish in an instant, but somehow I knew that here it would persist eternally. It was a moment frozen in time. Half of the sun had already sunk beyond the horizon, but the remaining half would never budge. The waves continued to roll in and out, were surely governed by something other than the tidal force I was familiar with. Suddenly, I understood. This was a dream. There wasn't a beach like this anywhere near Suahara City. Hell, it didn't even really look like somewhere in Japan. I'd set foot on foreign soil, set foot on a temporal plane far removed from the present. It would seem that I understood the nature of this place on an instinctual level. By all means, I should have felt some sense of bewilderment, being confronted with so surreal a scene, but I simply found myself captivated by it. There was a certain nostalgic atmosphere about the place that spoke to me. No, maybe what really drew me in was a sense of stagnation. This was a world frozen in time, possessed of a beauty of an everlasting sunset. The very concept of the flow of time was meaningless here. An eternal twilight, decorated by a sun that would never dip below the horizon. This world existed on the border between day and night, its very existence a precious reverie, fallen between the cracks of reality. I felt truly at peace here, within this concentrated moment. I sat down on the beach, absently staring out at the sea and listening to the waves. I found myself overcome with a peculiar sense of deja vu. Even though I'd never laid eyes on the place before, it was like I was already deeply familiar with it. Obviously, this was all just a dream, but it was a pleasant feeling nonetheless. Knowing what you're dealing with in advance means that you can handle anything that it might throw your way. Foreknowledge makes it possible to avoid dangerous situations and prolong pleasant ones. To make better, more meaningful decisions. What could bring about a greater sense of peace? Yes, my ideal world was knowing everything in advance. Going around in circles until the day you die. Was that your heart's desire? She cut across my line of vision at nearly the exact same time as I turned around. For the first time, I knew what it meant to have your breath taken away. The word that immediately came to mind was enchanting. I felt certain that anyone who came across this girl on this beach would be stunned in the same way I was. She was outfitted in a shabby, worn-out dress. No one could call her attire elegant, but on her it exuded a radiance that women of high society could never hope to attain with even their most extravagant formal wear. Her long hair emanated an auburn aura, lit up by the dull red glow of the setting sun, as she danced across the wet sand of the beach. The stark white ankles peeking out from the hem of her dress offered a sharp contrast to the warm colors of the world around her. She turned to face me, emerald eyes gleaming with a gentle light. I couldn't take my eyes off of her. She was like a gemstone cut into human form. As I stared, she began to sing, a ghost of a smile playing across her face. I could only give myself unto her song, unto the sweet refrain brought forth by her heavenly voice. The words, L'enfant de la punition? Suddenly flashed through my head. That was the name of the chapter, right? I didn't know what those words meant or why they came to me now. Her song was a melody unfamiliar to me. However, I felt certain that it was some form of prayer, perhaps a hymn unbeknownst to all but her. The girl before me was utterly pure, removed from our base world. How could a melody spilling forth from the lips of a being so immaculate be anything but a prayer? Was it possible to listen to a song you had never heard before within a dream? I didn't know, but there was no sense in pondering such questions. She was beautiful, plain and simple. That was enough to make everything else seem... Something felt vaguely out of place. Was I overlooking something important? The stirring of emotion I'd felt up until that point dissolved. Listening with a clear head, the lyrics of her song began to form intelligible sentences. I had been a fool. Throughout Japan's history, twilight, the borderline between day and night, had been regarded as a time when the boundaries between the natural and supernatural grew thin. Twilight was when the inhuman walked among the living. All along, this girl had been mad.
血が欲しい。ギロチンに注ごう飲み物を。ギロチンの渇きを癒すため。欲しいのは血。
She continued singing, the same smile as ever adorning her features. Her emerald eyes were as clear as the surface of a pristine lake, without a trace of malevolence to be found. Which was precisely why the scene before me was so horrifying. She possessed a childlike innocence, in jarring contrast to the utter profanity of her accursed song. Her song reverberated inside my head, splitting itself into seemingly endless echoes. As I stared at her, I caught a glimpse of the crimson band around her neck through her disheveled hair, unmistakably the work of a guillotine's blade. This was the same girl I had met in the museum. The cursed girl who had met her end by the guillotine. L'enfant de la punition. The damned girl. I was assaulted by a sudden, brutal impact, as if I'd been hit by a semi. My vision went black. In the next moment, I found myself in the midst of a turbulent crowd, gathered around gallows set up in the center of a plaza. A torrent of sheer delirium fueled by fear and hatred and a dark elation consumed everything. The scenery around me little more than a churning chaos. A deafening chorus filled my ears. Je voulais sang, 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 et sang. Blood, 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 it wants blood. Donnons le sang de guillotine. Shower the guillotine with drink. Yeah, I'm just gonna read the English part. There is no real reason for me to be reading the Latin. Like, reading is perhaps generous, as far as verbs go, describing what I was just doing with that. May the guillotine's thirst be quenched. What it wants is blood, blood, blood. The frenzied crowd was singing the same song that I had heard only moments earlier. Back in the time period where public executions like this were commonplace, it must have been a hymn they offered before the guillotine. The elites, the clergy, and the common man had come together, all for the simple purpose of seeing a criminal decapitated before their eyes. To see my head fly from my shoulders. Wait, we're the ones getting decapitated now? I don't recall agreeing to this. That's right, don't ask me why, but the criminal strapped to the guillotine was none other than myself. Next to me, some sort of official was calling out to the crowd, speaking a language I didn't recognize. It would seem he was recruiting a volunteer to act as the executioner. Isn't that, like, supposed to be someone's job? Like, I'm pretty sure execution is like a profession, right? You don't just ask for volunteers. That's messed up. It wasn't long before a man emerged from the crowd. He released the guillotine's blade in my head. Tumbled to the ground, bathed in the queer tones of the eternal dusk. My spine was severed in an instant, inducing ataxia, but my ability to feel pain had been lost along with the connection between my brain and the rest of my body. I could do nothing but stare up at my headless body as it spewed forth blood. Ah, my heart was still beating. I wanted nothing more than to extend a hand to my body, but that was impossible now.
血が欲しい
All I could do was lie on the ground, listening to that abominable refrain. And on that exciting note, we're gonna wake up. And on that exciting note, I'm closing the video for today. I'll catch you all tomorrow when we can see the aftermath of our intrepid protagonist's exciting dreams about getting his head cut off. So, you'll have that to look forward to. And so will I. Peace.